The whole problem, young tiger, is that the exhausted, dying of thirst masses are flocking to the towers, and there they receive food, water, and a place to sleep. I have no idea where they are getting it from. Suddenly, the underground vaults of the red towers are magically filled with dura, onions, flour, and water. And then we have our own law, which says that everyone can worship their own gods.
As long as it doesn't violate the rights of others. We are not allowed to make blood sacrifices, and we are not allowed to turn a blind eye to it. They are calling for the destruction of all other cults, for the killing of those who oppose the underground mother and the code of the earth, for rebellion against the tiger throne. Don't tell me that this is lawful. We have a reason to go after that, and a serious one at that.
We would, if it weren't for the drought.
Teacher, I said, the prophetess known as the fire of the desert is bringing forth springs of sweet water where there never were any, and where even the deep wells have nearly dried up. She heals the terminally ill. She appears each day in different part of the empire, covering entire leagues in the blink of the eye. She multiplies food, she sparks fire. There have been instances where those who opposed her burst into living flames and burned until their bodies turned to bright ash. They say that anyone who sees her face goes blind and that their eyes turn golden. Almost everyone who comes into contact with her becomes a follower of the underground. Am I repeating bazaar gossip, or am I saying what I've read in the imperial scrolls written by strategists and spies?
It is in the imperial scrolls.
Leopold said uncertainly. On top of that, the entire inner circle is plagued by a drought the likes of which no one has ever seen. Wells are drying up for unknown reasons. The entire country is hit by plagues. A storm is raging in the north, despite it being summer and it's snowing and there's ice, and yet somehow raiders from the wolf ships are harassing the coast. Did I get anything wrong?
No.
So tell me, Leverbell, because I'm just a simple prince, and I don't understand completely. What else needs to happen for us to believe that this is really the wrath of ancient goddess? Maybe the underground mother does want to reclaim Amitrash, which has been taken over by foreigners.
Because gods can't act in that way. Have you ever met a god, Tohimon?
No.
But I have. About 4 times. I'll tell you how they operate. Have you ever seen a leopard fighting contest where the leopards show off the tricks?
You know I have.
The tamer sits on a chair and it's only allowed to whistle, right? The leopard runs through obstacles, destroys targets, knocks over dummies, tracks and kills a rabbit, and then brings it back to the handler. Tell me, what kind of a contest would it be if the tamer shot the rabbit himself, knocked over the targets himself, and then killed his competitor at the end? It's the same here. The gods appear in earthly forms and, supposedly, sometimes start intrigues, sometimes push selected people to do something. Or they visit their sacred places in a divine form, like a moonbeam or a pillar of smoke, then sometimes they say something to the faithful. Incomprehensible, strange, or completely nonsensical. Simple people call them gods, but I don't know what these beings are. According to our faith, the only God is the Creator, who never appears anywhere. We call the others Nadaku, elemental spirits. They can't cause droughts or personally win battles or give miraculous powers to the chosen ones, because if one did, all of them would start doing it. The world would end. The underground mother can't command the sun because she didn't create it. And because it shines over lands, which have their own Nadaku as well. I know, but in my view, Nadaku are beings from our country. In Kirenan, we had various Nadaku, the Uphill Walker and the Creator. Maybe it's different here. Besides, the Amitrajis believe that the underground gave life to all beings. So there can't be Nadaku because they don't create. And as far as I know, the sun shines normally over lands. And how do you know she created anything? Because she said so? It doesn't matter. Maybe we should find a way to communicate with this underground mother. Amitrash is ours now. First of all, my father said, it's not that simple. She's not a servant. She won't come just because you clapped your hands. To summon a god, an adak or whatever you call them, you have to do something in their honor that they desire. And you also have to be sincere devotee and want to serve them. I don't want to commit a bloody slaughter in some cave, especially since it might be in vain. And secondly, what could we offer her? That we will slit our throats ourselves and then impose the code of the earth? Let's ask then for some help from the Apple Walker, or Overkiran on Nadaku. Let's summon Kamarasu. No one has seen them in a long time. Besides, gods can't wage war to him on. They simply can't. They would destroy the world and themselves. According to the Book of a Journey, that's what happened once, I remarked. Yes, son, and according to the book, it did destroy the world. Days passed, and the drought persisted. It seemed that no one could remember the last time it rained. Even the lake in the village of clouds had shrunk, with large sandbanks appearing around the islands and on the shore, and rocks rising from the water that I had never seen before. Our streams had turned into sluggish, barely flowing trickles. My father decided to deploy the army to maintain order. The heavy infantry of Amitrash, which for generations had conquered the world, now had to restore the peace in its own cities. Along the roads of the entire empire, from all provinces, rows of wagons with barrels of water and food were being hauled. In the peripheral provinces, taxes had been risen to nearly 20%, and merchants were furious. The capital was relatively safe, but everywhere you could see military units with large shields and battle spears in full armor. The townspeople, who had never seen their own army in full combat readiness, looked on with fear and disbelief. But what frightened me was something else. We were walking with Hone along a street that was slightly less crowded than usual. The longer the draft lasted, the more obvious it became that the city was changing. Many shops and offices were closed. The vegetables and fruits on the stalls were ugly, shriveled, and covered in brown spots. Along the riverbank, under the walls, huge pyres were burning with a roar. On the streets, everywhere there was a bit of shade. Exhausted people lay, oblivious to the flies swarming over their faces. Everywhere, you could see someone begging for a sip of water. Carts on large wheels were being pushed through the streets, and bodies of those who had died from the heat from thirst were being thrown onto them, because that too had begun to happen. The bodies of those found at sunrise were also being thrown onto the carts. Lying in the street, blue and stiff, with their throats cut and heads torn out. Those who had broken one of the countless laws of the Code of Air. Bodies were burned beneath the city walls to prevent the spread of disease. Around the pyres, groups of mourning women with black veils, resembling crows, constantly gathered. The smell of burning and flies, millions of flies, hung heavy in the air. Hone and I stood silently watching. My father had issued a special edict ordering representatives of all cults to distribute water and food to care for those in need, but most temple doors remained closed. The symbol of the underground womb was painted in soot or ochre on the doorways and walls of the temples. Let's get a drink, Hone said, even if it costs a dirham. My treat. We found an open tavern with difficulty. There was no palm juice. We sat with cups of thin, lukewarm, spiced beer, staring on the opposite wall, where someone had scrawled in charcoal, "The fire of a desert is coming." If only it would rain, Hone muttered grimly. A simple rain, preferably right now. There could still be a second summer harvest. Then we'd drive those rattling bloody racks back underground where they belong, along with the underground whore, the fire and the deserts. The city would come back to life. Music would play in the squares again.
He took a sip of a warm drink and grimaced. It tastes of rot. The bastard must have brewed it with river water. If a good rain falls, you know what I'll do, Red Hat? What? Sitar Tenzin. I'll give you a gold shekel, Sitar Arjuk, and I'll take one myself. 6 soldiers marched down the middle of a street. The 19th Timan, Canadier, I thought mechanically, looking at the emblem on their shields. Sitar Tenzin, what does the symbol above the black hand emblem mean? What symbol? The one that looks like intersecting semicircles. Hone clenched his jaw. They painted it themselves. It's the 2 moons, the sign of the Moon Brothers. The rams of a fat hag sitting by her sheeted underground throne. Hone spoke the last words loudly, as if directly addressing the patrol. There was a crunch, and the soldiers stopped, then slammed their shields down on the ground. Were you talking to us, peasant? The commander asked, approaching our table. The soldiers formed a circle, shielding us and the commander from the rest of the street. Hone smiled slightly, reaching under the flap of his tunic. Then suddenly his hand shot forward, and 2 fingers clamped onto the commander's throat like claws. Hone pulled out a heavy iron seal from under his tunic and held it up to the man's eyes. The soldiers froze. Hone released his grip on the commander's throat and stood up from his stool. Clean your shields. Immediately. Yes, Sitar bin Honpahan, the commander croaked. It was just to act friendlier to the locals. Were you a centurion, Sitar Tenzin? I asked as they walked away. I've done many things, Archie, but what I did right now was really stupid. We'd better leave. We're attracting attention. Trips to the city had stopped being an entertaining distraction from the monotony of my life. Honestly, I would have preferred not to see it in such a state. But we kept going. We talked to the people, strolled through the almost deserted streets where the main sound was the heavy thud of soldiers' boots. Fires still burned under the walls. My father had managed to bring it in a large shipment of water by river barges, so at least every resident was getting their daily bucket of water. We also delivered food and water to all temples except the Red Towers, and ordered that they be distributed to those in need. We made sure everyone knew about it. This move diminished the priests of the underground's perceived generosity. Several priests, monks, and laymen caught stealing food were executed. Drinking the muddy, foul-smelling liquid from the river caused terrible pains, fever, and bloating that often led to death, yet every day many still tried. But the rain refused to fall. Day after day, the blazing, scorching sun rose, and even the cloudless sky seemed to have lost its color. A sense of impending doom hung over the land and the village of clouds. The gongs in our temple sounded continuously throughout the day. Prayers to the Creator, the uphill walker, and all the Nadak were offered ceaselessly. Day and night, bundles of incense burned, and prayer flags drooped sadly in the windless air. The only bright spot in my life during that time was the lessons Aina gave. At night, the heat seemed even more unbearable, and the looming threat of the goddess's wrath hung over us constantly, with bad news arriving day after day. Even the wise ones agreed that the prolonged drought was completely unnatural. Amid this continuous gloom, we both sought solace in our endless struggles. But one night, she surprised me. I arrived as usual, slipping in from the garden directly into her bedroom. Aina was sitting on a carpet in her evening gown, and beside her knelt a slender girl I didn't know. She held her hands on her knees and looked straight ahead with large, dark emerald eyes. She was about my age or perhaps a little older, and she had red hair like mine, though probably darker. This is Mira, Aina said. Tonight, you will face a real opponent. It's time to see what you've learned. Aina, I gently protest. Mira is beautiful, but I don't even know her. I prefer lessons with you. I said, she cut me off. This is your task for tonight.
It's a skill like riding a horse or fighting. You don't know what kind of horse you'll have to ride, and you don't always fight with your war minister. Tonight, you will face Mira, and you will defeat her. She reached for the center, and after a moment, it seemed she paid no attention to us, absorbed in her quiet play. Mira took my hand and led me to Aina's bed, then lowered the muslin canopy. Don't pay attention to her, she whispered. She had a melody, pleasant voice, and she smelled wonderful. And don't listen what she says about the fighting. This isn't a fight, but love. I'll prove to you that it has nothing to do with war. It doesn't matter whether she wants to humiliate you or test you. Let her have what she wanted. We may never meet again, so let's give each other a bit of happiness to remember. Hold me, my lord, and forget everything, and I will make sure you will never forget this night. But I believed Aina and decided not to give in. Mira was wonderful, but I could return each of her caresses many times over. I already knew how to control myself and not burn out too quickly. When I reached fulfillment, I could almost immediately resume our amorous struggles, and I saw the amazement in her emerald eyes. It wasn't easy, and it lasted for hours, but I finally achieved my goal. I heard guttural cries entirely different from the elegant, passionate moans she had been making before, and I watched as she writhed beneath me, greedily taking everything I gave, her wild eyes and disheveled hair falling over her face. She wasn't pretending. Aina had taught me how to recognize when a woman was faking it. When Mira left, I lay on my back for a long time, unable to move from exhaustion. I felt empty and light as a cloud, yet somehow solid and humiliated. I felt anger towards my teacher. In my opinion, she let you win, Aina said. But you still did well. You wanted me to fail, I growled. No, she whispered very sadly. I wanted to regain my coldness. I am a teacher. Often after that, we would meet in the evening, both sad and full of foreboding, tired of a drought, seas, threats, riots, and the shouts of a masked priest on the streets. Tired of maps, strategies, and shipments of water and grain that were no longer available. And then we would embrace, and there was nothing else but our bodies, the silk of the sheets, the scent of fragrant oils and incense, and the black night outside the bedroom. That was when I defeated her, for the first and the last time. Afterward, she lay completely still, drenched in sweat, her legs spread out, panting heavily. She said nothing. After a long time, she knelt on the bed and took my shoulders. This moment had to come, she said. This is the end of your training, young tiger. Go now, richer with knowledge that few possess, and don't forget what you've learned. I will teach you nothing more talking. To think that just 3 heartbeats earlier, I was proud of myself and happy. Now I felt as though I had been left alone in a black hole, as if my heart had been ripped out, leaving a gaping, bloody wound. Suddenly, as if I had fallen through the ice. Stunned, I looked at her slender body, unable to believe that I was seeing it for the last time. From now on, she would always be just a teacher. Her tangled mane of midnight blue hair would only be a meticulously styled coiffure, full of pins and clasps, and her breasts and the silky triangle of mouse fur-colored hair would disappear forever beneath the gleaming fabrics of her gown. My throat was tight. I cleared my throat. Aina, I have to say this in the end. I didn't finish. She silenced me with 2 fingers and gently stroked my cheek.
No time. You are to become a ruler. I will be the teacher of imperial children and a strategist. I taught you something so you wouldn't become a slave to your own desire, so that no woman could play you and make you her puppet. I taught you the dance of bodies, but did you not notice, my beautiful tiger, that I didn't teach you what love is, only how to deal with it? There was only the dance, the juices of our bodies, sweat and passion, moans, not words of love. There was no tenderness. Did you not notice that? Mira, whom you saw for only one night, gave you 1,000 times more tenderness than I did during all that time. Now I know you can tame and defeat me, and you would do it many more times. From now on, feelings would creep between us, and that can't be allowed. There would be kisses, conversations, tears, and laughter. There would no longer be struggles, only mutual adoration. Instead of giving you freedom to choose, I would have ensnared you. Aina, I do remember that one day I may become emperor, many years from now. My father is still young, and may the path grant him health. I'm not a fool, but I still can have concubines. She hissed, as if in anger. What a temptation! I would live by my prince's side, hidden in the shadows, having ensnared him from his youth. The first woman to give him happiness, the first he possessed, one taught him since he was a child, and now the first concubine. And one day, tomorrow, in a year or in 10 years, I would stand in the shadow of a throne, safely hidden with a ruler all to myself in the bedroom. No, Tohim, I will not endanger the tiger throne in this way. You are 16 years old, noble prince. I, however, am old. I am over twice your age. You should now seek a girl of your own age, fresh, beautiful, and delicate. Someone like Mira. Forget my thinning hair, sagging breasts, wrinkled skin, bony hands and feet. But Aina, you are beautiful. Men burn with desire when they see you. You are like a ripe fruit, sweet and heavy with sunlight. Shh. Tell me that in 10 years, noble prince. In 10 years, when you will still be very young, then I will believe you. Right now, you are only longing for the memory of a fire I tore from your innards. I remained silent, trying to suppress the despair within me, but I knew she was right, even though everything inside me rebelled against it. After that, I went through dark, gloomy days, seeking solitude, sitting within a cup of brew and after that, I went through dark, gloomy days, seeking solitude, sitting with a cup of brew and staring ahead with a glazed expression. Aina behaved the same as always, calm and natural, just as before I had ever touched her. It seemed to me that it didn't affect her at all, that she wasn't suffering as I was, which made me feel even worse. Just seeing her was unbearable for me. Several times, alone in my bedroom, when I was absolutely certain that no one would see me, I allowed myself to release the gnawing despair and cried bitterly. I sobbed like a child, but it brought me no relief. I wept, clutching the same iron ball I had received from the leather belt as a child. My miraculous wishing ball. Despair only brought me exhaustion, which allowed me to sleep. A week passed, and my body awakened. The sadness hadn't passed, but the fire reignited, and the same untamable hunger began to torment me again. Before, I would spend evenings in my chamber or on the terrace, reading by lamplight, playing the cithara or flute. Then, almost every evening belonged to Aina. Now, I couldn't return to my former activities. The country was falling apart due to the drought. Rebels and malevolent priests were everywhere, and I had lost Ain. There was nothing but defeat, plagues, longing, and despair. The entire world seemed like a scorched wasteland to me, and I began to dream of dying and going to the Creator, far away from the fire of the desert, the drought, and Ain. One such evening, hot and sad, I sat on a cushion, gazing at the gardens as the sun was setting. I desired to have some palm wine brought to me, and I struck the gong. The door opened slightly, and 3 girls entered, whom I had never seen before. They carried a tray with wine and a platter of fruits, one of them holding a scimitar. Each one was different. One had dark purple hair, another the color of red copper, and third almost white. They were young, about my age. Noble prince, my young Lord Tiger. They bowed on their knees and remained in that position. Fadira Aina sends us, said the one with dark hair, shining like the evening sky. We are your new attendants. We are here to help you rest after the day's hardships and to ensure that in the morning you have a strength, desire to attend to your noble duties. I am Fiala. The one with red hair is called Tahela, and the white-haired one is Irissa. Irissa sings beautifully and plays the sitar. We all can, but she is unparalleled. You can listen to her voice for hours, forgetting the whole world. I, on the other hand, can dance, and though it's nothing special, your father, the ruler of a tiger throne, once jokingly remarked that he felt like abandoning everything and running away with me to the ends of the earth after watching my clumsy performances. Tahela, meanwhile, can tell stories as if her words cast a spell on the listener, and she knows more tales than there are stars in the sky. They are amusing, heroic, astonishing, or touching. We are all also masters of the art of love and can make you forget the whole world, ensuring that you wake up in the morning as a completely new man, cheerful and refreshed. We know many other skills too. We can massage and turn the tired body of a weary man into something as supple and fresh as a young stallion. We can also be silent or invisible if you wish. We can even find a remedy for sadness and soothe pain. Whatever you desire. Leave the wine and go, I said in a wooden voice. I already have an attendant and I need nothing more. I'm in no mood for entertainment, dancing, or stories. As for love, I'll decide myself if I ever want to do it again and with whom. You are indeed beautiful, so please convey my thanks and gratitude to Fadira Aina. Now, leave me. We will do as you command, noble prince, said Fiala, bowing even lower. Fadira Aina foresaw this might happen, and we will know what to do in such a situation. What? If we fail to cure you, my lord, of your sorrow, it will mean that we are worthless, and we will be sent to the military pleasure house at the fort in Sauragar to entertain the soldiers. Are you joking, Fiala? No, my lord. We will depart with the transport and recruits in 3 days. Fadira Aina has written a letter regarding this matter. Very well, I said angrily. Fadira Aina, as usual, will have her way. You can stay as my attendant. Now, pour me some wine and go to your quarters. I looked at them again and momentarily changed my mind. Actually, I do need a woman. Stay, Fiala. Forgive me, my lord, but you have been lost in sorrow for too long. What is that supposed to mean? You are too sick with grief, my lord. One girl cannot overcome such pain. Tonight you will need all 3 of us, and we will give our all. Let us take care of you, and don't think about anything else. I promise that in the morning you will wake up smiling. In the morning, it turned out that Aina was right once again.